to the race, not race preview, but the qualifying predictions video we have going on here. Now, this has been a very busy week. I know most of you are probably also keeping up with the Euros that are going on, rightfully so. I think it's one of the best ways to bring communities, bring nations together. That's something I've been spending a lot of time on this week as well. But that doesn't mean we can forget about Formula One and what is happening in Formula One. So, with that being said, right now we are going to go in our pre-qualifying predictions. Now we've had the first two free practice sessions. We're going to go over some of the teams, what we noticed, what happened, um, how it compares to the preview I made. I made a race preview back on Monday. I think I posted it maybe Tuesday, but I think it was Monday. If you haven't checked that out, you can go check that out. It's on my channel. Sorry, it's very hot in here. It's been crazy, crazy warm over the past couple days, but that doesn't matter. You can go check out that preview, tell me what you think, and just see how the race should play out or what we have seen in the past. Let's put my phone here on Do Not Disturb. All right. Now, we have gone through the first two free practice sessions. The first free practice session, as we know, is basically just a time for teams to get accustomed to just run a setup on their car, see how it's working, see what's not working. Some of the results, you can take it with a grain of salt. You know, not all the teams are looking for the fastest times. A lot of the top teams actually decide to keep some of their engine settings a bit lower so that they have more power when it's time for the qualifying session. You don't want to give everything you have away right at the beginning because, again, you're playing all your cards. You want to keep something back. So the results are usually taken with a grain of salt. I don't focus too much of my predictions on the free practice sessions. I used to do that, but now I noticed, especially with Max Verstappen, that even when it seems like the car is just not there, he finds a way to get it in the right window when it does matter during the qualifying sessions. But that being said, the first qualifying session, we actually had Ollie Behrman in the Haas as well, doing his FP1, which is cool to see. I think he will be getting that full-time seat come next year. That remains to be seen, but I do think that's the direction it is going in right now, and that is what we will be seeing. Logan Sargent this week apparently is the first time in months that he has had the exact same specs on his car that Alex Albon had on his car. So I guess this will be a head-to-head comparison in the exact same machinery, and we'll see whether Logan Sargent can come close to Alex Albon, maybe even pass him. I personally don't see it happening, but I do think this is a very important weekend for Logan Sargent to see whether he belongs in F1 and whether he has a chance to continue there as well on equal terms with his teammate. This will be a pretty big moment for him to show what he can do. Who else did we have? The Haas is pretty low. Dale Ricciardo did much better than Logan Sargent, but it wasn't anything, not Logan Sargent, sorry, than Yuki Tsunoda, but it wasn't anything crazy. Again, it was just FP1. Let's go into the top 10. Now, in the top 10, we had Alex Albon in 10th. Car's looking okay. We'll see how he does in qualifying. Then we had Fernando Alonso, who is a home race for him. He is a home hero, a home crowd favorite for sure. I'm sure that they'll be hoping he can get up into the places. Now, he said in an interview earlier this week that he believes their true pace at this circuit on this weekend is going to be somewhere between, I believe he said P8 and P12. Obviously, that's not what he wants. I'm sure he wants to be much higher up. He'd be hoping to ideally fight for race wins, but that seems to not be the case at the moment. However, if he can manage to get into some high-scoring points, that would be very good for him and for that team. Esteban Ocon placed his car higher up than his teammate. Again, FP1. I don't know how many times I'm going to repeat that. I'll try not to do it too often, but take these results with a grain of salt. Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes, who I think the Mercedes are going to surprise some people this weekend. I also said that in my preview video that they do have some pretty substantial upgrades coming over the next couple of weeks, this being the first after what we saw over the last couple of weeks. The car looks much better. They were much quicker in Canada. So I do think this is an opportunity for the team to make up some ground and show that they have made up some of this ground to become closer to the top 3 teams ahead of them. Oscar Piastri, our top 5, basically, after Oscar Piastri was out there, was the top 3 teams we're expecting. So Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull. However, George Russell did manage to put his Mercedes into the P4 spot. Now, there are a lot of people that are talking about potential sabotage going on at Mercedes against Lewis Hamilton, of course. You know, I don't know what to say. I don't want to comment on that. I don't think it's true. I don't think they can afford it to be true. I don't think they want it to be true. They have no reason to truly sabotage Lewis Hamilton. But again, I am not going to go into that because I truly don't know. You know, it may be true. I don't think it is, but I cannot sit here and guarantee that there's no way it's true. Lando Norris was a nice surprise because he topped FP1 ahead of Max Verstappen. Now, from this first practice session, something else that was very substantial for me was the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, who was in 11th. He was not happy at all. The balance just wasn't there. He definitely wanted more with that car. They did fix these issues come FP2, but as a Ferrari fan, I didn't even invite Enzo into this chat. He doesn't want to talk about it. It is not looking like it's going to be a great weekend for Ferrari. Not a track that's suiting them to perfection. This will be a tough weekend for them. However, if we go over into FP2, things did seem to tidy up a bit. We had no huge shocks, except the fact that both of the Aston Martin cars were out of the top 10. And not only were they out of the top 10, but Fernando Alonso was P14, while Lance Stroll was P18. So these are two very low points, very low positions for these cars, which should expect to be much higher up. They are much quicker. They should be much quicker. They've put so much money into developing that car. They actually just had that meeting with Adrian Newey, who, unfortunately, I mean, I would love to see him go to Ferrari, but it must be enticing. I'm sure Stroll probably wrote him a blank check. I can imagine that he just gave him a checkbook, said, whatever you want, that is what you will have if you come here. Doesn't matter who you are, it's definitely enticing. It's definitely something that you have to be open to considering. So now it might not be so clear cut that he will be going to Ferrari. For Alonso, this would be really good. Aston Martin would definitely improve over the next couple of years if they did get Adrian Newey. For F1, I think this would be pretty good as well because we don't want him to go to a team that's dominating to just make them even more dominant. This would showcase truly that you can have battles between different teams if they have different aspects that they're focusing on. But I digress. Sergio Perez was also out of the top 10. He finished in P13. Not a big deal. The top 10 consisted of Bottas, Ocon, Russell, Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen, Gasly in P4. That is pretty surprising. Norris, Sainz, and Lewis Hamilton in first position. So the upgrades do seem to be working. Lewis Hamilton seems to be on it. He is happy. He has come out and said that he likes the way the car feels, likes what's happening with the car. Great to see and hear from him. And hopefully he can carry that today into FP3, which is coming up in I think about 1 hour, and into the qualifying session tonight or later today as well. Leclerc seems to have figured out the balance with the car. It looked much better in FP2, and going into FP3, we'll see if they continue with that or if they also manage to make the car worse. But what matters most now is that going forward into qualifying session, all of these teams dial in the little things they have to work on in FP3. Now, as for the qualifying session, what do I think will happen? Well, I think, as I said before in my preview video as well, I think this is a race where Red Bull have the upper hand. It's a classic track. There are no high curbs here. Red Bull is quick. Verstappen will be back to his form. Not dominant. I want to say dominating form, but I don't think it'll be the domination that we're used to when we see Max blow the field by 30 seconds. I think it will be quick, but I do think Max Verstappen will end up on pole. So for pole position, I have Max Verstappen. Now, I usually tend to gravitate towards having Leclerc fighting for pole with Max, but I do not think that will be the case here at Barcelona. I think in Barcelona, McLaren have shown that they are quick. The car has been extremely quick since Miami. They are bringing upgrades in the future as well. Lando showed us that he topped FP1 already. FP2, he wasn't quite as quick, but that just means he got P3 and not P1. So I think the second driver that will be in the mix contending for pole, I don't think he'll get it, but I think he'll be contending for is Lando Norris. And I think Lando Norris will end up in P2 after the qualifying session, which will give him a great run into turn 1 to challenge Max for the race. But we'll be going over the full qualifying results and predictions and be making some bets as well for the race after the qualifying session. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments whether you think Max Verstappen will end up back on pole position this weekend. The rest is interesting because in P3, although I do think McLaren has that quick car, I think Carlos Sainz or Charles Leclerc top will top Oscar Piastri for that third position. And behind Oscar Piastri, I think it will either be the Ferraris or I could see Lewis Hamilton making something happen and pulling out either a top 3 or a top 5 because the car looks quick, he looks confident. Again, we'll have to see how FP3 plays out. That will be one of the main indicators of whether the car will be fast. When the other teams start to turn off their engines a little bit, is Mercedes just running their engine at the full performance compared to other cars that aren't doing that right now? Or do they genuinely have pace? Because I'm sure we'll see these times drop in the qualifying session. Right now we're about in the 113s. This will probably drop down even lower. I could imagine it going lower. I don't think this will be the ultimate pace that they're showing. I can't imagine Max Verstappen can't improve that and set a benchmark that is higher. As I said, I am fearful for the Ferraris. I don't think they'll have a great weekend. They wanted to have a good bounce back weekend after the last race in Canada, but it just isn't looking too promising, unfortunately. We will see. We will see. Okay, Step, who are you? I got a comment. My name is Patrick. Hi. I don't know who I am. I'm a Ferrari fan. I'm a medical student. My bear, thank you. The bear's name is Enzo. He also co-hosts the previews that I do, and he's going to co-host the post-race shows I do as well. So make sure to subscribe to see more of Enzo the bear. He's a classic Ferrari bear, gotten straight from Maranello itself. He's a member of the family now. And that's how you can tell that I'm a Ferrari fan. Again, I try not to be biased, but it's hard for the bias not to come out. I have a Mercedes shirt that I've been planning to wear for a very long while for one of these videos. I just can't bring myself to do it, but if they do have a great qualifying session, I do promise that I will be wearing the Mercedes shirt in the video for tomorrow when we talk about the predictions. So again, Kayla, thank you for the comments, and if you aren't subscribed already and want to subscribe, me and Enzo would greatly appreciate that as we are trying to grow this channel slowly but surely. There's not much to say. I think Nico Hülkenberg will be beating out Magnussen. Nico's looking very quick. I'm sure he will be very quick in a quick car. That's a lot of quicks for one sentence, but it is the truth. That will be great to see. I hope Audi gets to where they need to be, where they hope to be. Now, they might not be the quickest team in the future on their first year, but hopefully with time they will improve and they will be exactly where they need to be, fighting against other top teams. As for head-to-heads, I think Lewis Hamilton will outqualify Russell, especially if there is some type of controversy over whether there is sabotage towards Lewis Hamilton. This will be the weekend where they clearly won't be able to do anything. They'll just let the drivers fight it out on pure pace, and I think that Lewis Hamilton won't be backing down. This weekend he will be locked in. He's good on this track. The car is good on this track. So I think this will be a weekend where we see Lewis Hamilton outqualify George Russell. Crazy prediction. You know, I said I think Norris P2, Max P1. I think I'll go with Lewis Hamilton in P3, bringing it back. That's my crazy prediction for this race. Now, of course, I could go safe. I could say the McLaren's going to be up there. The Ferraris are going to be up there. Yes, most likely. But we do hope, and I think the crazy prediction for this race weekend, for this qualifying session, will be that Lewis Hamilton brings that upgraded Mercedes into a P3 position to start on the second row for the race tomorrow. That's what I would like to see. That's what I'm hoping happens. And what'd be even cooler is if somehow Mercedes managed to lock it out, because we need to see them take a step up towards the other teams ahead. And they have been doing that. Now, if they're consistently bringing upgrades, then we'll see how well these upgrades are working. And they said they figured out the issues with the car. So if they figured it out and they're going into the right direction, that's definitely a good sign. We just need to see if this is the truth or if the current issue with the or the fact that it happened in Canada, they got onto the podium, was just an outlier. You are subscribed. Thank you, Michaela. Appreciate it. Hope to see you on as many of these lives or the videos in the future. And let me know who your favorite team is. Are you a Ferrari fan, Mercedes, McLaren? Who are you with? Ocon, I think, will continue to be destroyed by Alpine come forward. I'm curious to see whether he gets to drive. And actually, I'm curious to see when they announce where Carlos Sainz will be driving next year. Now, that is something that has been a topic of discussion for basically the entire season since we found out that Lewis Hamilton will be going to Ferrari next year. There are now reports that are heavier and heavier that he is going to Williams next season, that he signed the contract, just needs to be announced. It has not yet been announced, so of course we aren't certain that that's the case. But I do think it's a very high possibility. Now, I personally probably would have opted for Audi just to show a sign of good faith, a sign that I believe in them long term, because I don't see the point of going to Williams on a 1 year deal just to go over to what's currently stake, I guess, because I don't think Williams is going to be too competitive next year. And if you don't plan on staying there long term, I don't necessarily get it. But again, I'm not in that position. Maybe he didn't sign with Williams. These are just rumors. This is all something that I think will be coming out maybe this weekend. There's a lot of reports that they will be announcing this weekend. So that would be something that'd be interesting to keep an eye on and see how that plays out. I don't think that'll have too much of an effect on the qualifying session. The qualifying session, we know. I mean, I think there'll be no big surprises. Top 4 teams will be in the top 10, clearly. What's going to be a bit different here? I think Perez will be fine. I know that's always also a talking point. I think he'll be in the top 10 this weekend. He can't afford another early knockout. Same with Ferrari. They're coming back. They're going to be on it. What else is interesting here to keep an eye on is the bottom 2 positions, so 8 and 9, because typically the 5th best team in theory should be the Aston Martins, but right now the Aston Martins aren't that quick, and even so at this weekend they've shown that they're not quick at all. Now, this is an Alonso home race, so I'm sure he'll be giving it all. He might get that extra boost of confidence, of adrenaline. I don't know, maybe he'll find a way to put that into the top 10, but I don't think Lance Stroll is going to be in the top 10. Maybe Yuki and Daniel both have upgrades on that car. Should be making the car quicker in the high-speed corners. I could see them going into the qualifying session and getting into Q3. For sure Q2, hopefully Q3. As for Q3 or Q1 exit, so the first 5 drivers that I think are going to be out, it'll probably be Sargent. He's always a safe bet. Shogun Yu, unfortunately. I think Bottas isn't going to be too quick here. Who else do I think is going to be out? I think Magnussen, maybe, unless if that car is quick, but it also depends on track evolution, because if you're out right at the end, then you have a good chance of making it into the Q2 and Q3. Q2, there's a lot of teams. That's where we'll see who can make it into the Q3, and it will be quite close. Aston Martin's what I'm keeping my eye on. I want to see whether they will be able to maintain that 5th position, because they brought so many upgrades this season, and it just seems like they haven't been working. A lot of them feel almost like downgrades for that car, which probably isn't the case. I mean, I'm sure they aren't doing upgrades to the car that are making it worse. I think that the upgrades they're doing just aren't efficient compared to other teams' upgrades, which just makes the gap seem larger and larger. Compare this to last year when they were, at the beginning of the season, by far, I would say the 2nd best car. They've dropped down to 5th best car, and the 4th place car is now gapping them, is making a larger gap to them, which is Mercedes, in my opinion, are coming closer to the top 3 teams again. So this is something that I think is quite risky. In the chat, Michaela, you asked what my favorite song is. That's a tough one. I don't know. My girlfriend's been listening to a lot of Sabrina Carpenter, so I'm definitely loving the espresso lately. But I don't know if it's my favorite song. It's just something that's in my head on repeat. And Please, Please, Please. But we'll see. Those two are currently stuck in my head fighting each other. So that's basically it for this quick qualifying preview. Now, I do want to start posting videos as well of like betting after the qualifying session, because it's very difficult to make and place bets before the qualifying session for the main race, because I could assume that, yeah, I'll have Perez going into the top 6, and then he does what he did in Canada and comes out of it, doesn't even make it into Q3, which makes it much more difficult for him to do that. And my stake on it, or I don't even know, I always forget what it's called in English, the spread on it is just worse than it would be if I had waited until after the qualifying session to place my bets. So I will be posting a full form video tomorrow morning, either tonight or tomorrow morning, but most likely tomorrow morning, because Romania is playing tonight, and I wouldn't be a true fan or a true Romanian if I wasn't there watching the game. So do not be mad if the video is only out tomorrow morning. I promise to get it out before the race, and that's the whole idea of betting on the Spanish Grand Prix, is to be able to bet before the Grand Prix. Maybe if I'm okay this evening, I'll try to edit as much of it as I can, but stay tuned for that, because that will be something that will be coming out tomorrow. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified at first when it comes out. After the race tomorrow, we will be doing another breakdown of the race, just like this. It's probably the shorts. I haven't decided whether I like the short format more than the long form format. The short format just makes it easier to start on my phone, goes out to a wider audience. I don't know if you all prefer this. You might prefer the long form format, which is the classical live stream format that most people use. I like playing around with the short form version. I guess we'll see. We'll just continue. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. We'll see what works, what doesn't work. However, right after I stop these lives, the video goes private instantly, and then I have to unprivate it. So I'm not sure how that works, but it's okay. It will surely build up. Also, I am going to be starting a TikTok channel as well with this account. I will definitely be letting you guys know once that's all set up. I'll be posting content there as well. I don't have an Instagram for this account yet. I don't know if I'll be doing one. It's a lot of work to keep all these accounts running, but we'll see. Time will tell. I have 1 exam left, 2 exams left. So after these exam sessions, I'll definitely have more time in July to focus on the channel and on this aspect of life, which I do enjoy, but it definitely is time consuming. That's it for now. Let me know what you think, who you think will get pole position, what your top 3 is, what you think will happen, any surprises that we will have in this qualifying session or going into the race tomorrow. I would love to hear it. Love to see you guys on the next videos, and hopefully see you guys back tomorrow for the post-race show, where we can dive down and see which one of you guys was right with your predictions. Thanks again, and see you guys next time. Bye.